The man conducting the interrogation at the interrogation table had survived because of the woman across from him. 6 months ago, Marta had risked her own life to save his. She had smuggled him out of a hospital where he would have been executed. She had given him civilian clothes, fake documents, and a chance to survive. Now the man wore a Soviet NKVD uniform, and under his hand was a file with Marta's name on it. "Hello, Marta," Klaus said, no longer speaking German but Russian. "I believe you have some questions to answer. This is the true story of how mercy turned into betrayal, how a saved life became a destroyed life, and how war turns everyone it touches into an ingrate. You need to understand what Warsaw was like in August 1944. There was chaos in the city. The Warsaw Uprising had begun. The Polish resistance was desperately fighting against the German occupation. The Soviet army was sitting just across the Vistula River to come help, but they weren't going anywhere. They were waiting, letting the Germans and Poles destroy each other. The Soviets were just observing for their own interests. Marta Kowalska was a young girl, 24 years old, a nurse at a makeshift German military hospital set up in what used to be a school building. She wasn't there by choice. The Germans had issued a forced call to duty for medical personnel, forcing them to treat wounded soldiers. If you refused, you disappeared. It was that simple. The hospital had literally become a scene from hell. Wounded soldiers were arriving every hour, screaming, bleeding, dying. Marta had been a pediatric nurse before the war, used to treating children with ear infections and scraped knees. Now she was pulling shrapnel pieces from male soldiers' bodies, amputating limbs without proper anesthesia, witnessing boys too young to shave dying on blood-soaked tables, unable to rise. She deeply hated it. She hated the Germans for what they had done to her city, her country, her family. Her older brother had been killed in 1939. Her father had been sent to a labor camp and never returned. Her mother had been killed during the ghetto liquidation, shot for helping hide a Jewish neighbor's child. Marta had every reason to let these German soldiers die, and sometimes, when she was alone in the supply room, she thought about it, how easy it would be to give the wrong dose of medication, to miss a hemorrhage, to let infection set in. But she couldn't do it. Something inside her couldn't cross that line. They were still human, still someone's sons and brothers, still young men who probably never wanted this war. Klaus Weber came on August 18, 1944. He had been wounded during street fighting. Shot in the stomach, a bullet from a Polish resistance fighter had pierced through his abdomen. The field medics had patched him up enough to get him to the hospital, but he needed surgery, or he would die from internal bleeding. Marta was assigned to prepare him for surgery. She came to his bed with supplies, ready to do her job mechanically without looking at his face. Just another wounded German, just another body to process. But Klaus spoke to her in Polish. "Not German, Polish, please," he said, his accent heavy but understandable. "Please help me. I don't want to die here." Marta looked at him then, really looked. He was young, maybe 26, with dark blonde hair and grey eyes blurred with pain and morphine. His German uniform was torn and bloody, but underneath was just a scared young man. "Why do you speak Polish?" Marta asked, keeping her voice flat, professional. "My mother," Klaus said through gritted teeth. "She was Polish, from Poznań. She taught me before she died." "Your mother was Polish and you still wore that uniform." Marta couldn't hide the contempt in her voice. Klaus closed his eyes. "My father forced me. I had no choice. I never wanted this." Marta had heard these claims before. Every wounded German soldier suddenly became a secret sympathizer, a victim of circumstances, someone who never believed in the Reich. It was pathetic, but something in Klaus's voice stopped her. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the way he said it in his mother's language, like a confession. Maybe Marta was just too tired to hate anymore. "I'll prepare you for surgery," she said. "Dr. Kowalczyk is good. You might survive." "Thank you," Klaus whispered. Dr. Kowalczyk operated on Klaus for 3 hours. Marta assisted, passing instruments, monitoring vital signs, watching the doctor's hands working to repair the damage. Klaus's intestine had been perforated, and there was significant bleeding. It was touch and go. "This one's lucky," Dr. Kowalczyk muttered in Polish, thinking Klaus was unconscious. A few more hours and he'd be dead. Strong constitution. He'll probably make it, Klaus made it. He woke up 2 days later, weak and in pain but alive. Marta was there when he opened his eyes, checking his IV line. "You're alive," she said simply. "Because of you," Klaus said. "The doctor told me you stayed all night, that you watched over me. You didn't have to do that." "I'm a nurse," Marta said. "It's my job." "No," Klaus said, looking at her with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. "It's not just a job. You saved me. You could have let me die. Everyone would have understood." Marta didn't answer. She finished checking his IV and turned to leave. "Marta," Klaus called out. She had never told him her name, but it was on her badge. "Thank you, really thank you." Over the following week, Marta found herself assigned to Klaus's care more often than usual. The hospital was short-staffed, and Dr. Kowalczyk trusted her with the more stable patients. Klaus was stable now, healing slowly but steadily. They talked. At first it was just medical updates, his temperature, pain levels, whether he could eat solid food yet. But then Klaus started asking her questions in Polish. What was Warsaw like before the war? "Do you have family? What did you do before all this?" Marta knew very well she shouldn't answer. She shouldn't engage. But there was something about speaking Polish, about being treated as a human being instead of a nurse-shaped tool, that caused her walls to crack. She told him about her older brother, how he wanted to be a teacher, about her father's bookshop, about her mother's delicious dumplings she made every Sunday. Klaus told her about his mother, how she cried when he was conscripted, how his father, a German army officer, had rejected her for being Polish and weak, how she had died of pneumonia 2 years ago, dying alone at home because Klaus was at the front and couldn't come home. "I think about her every day," Klaus said. "I think about how disappointed she would be, seeing me in this uniform fighting against her own people." "Then why are you fighting? Why are you wearing this uniform?" Marta asked. "To avoid execution, of course. It was my way of deserting, in a sense," Klaus said simply. "Because I'm a coward who chose to live." Marta understood that. She understood that she had to make a choice to survive over principle. She was wearing a German armband herself, wasn't she? Working in their hospital, saving their soldiers. "We're all cowards now," she said quietly. "It's a situation war creates. It makes cowards of everyone who survives." On August 25th, rumors began spreading through the hospital. The Wehrmacht was retreating. The Soviet army was finally moving. Warsaw would fall within days, maybe hours. The German soldiers who could walk were being evacuated. The seriously wounded who couldn't be moved would be left behind. And everyone knew what that meant. The Soviets didn't take prisoners from hospitals. They executed wounded enemy soldiers to save resources. It was brutal, but it was war. Marta had heard the stories from the Eastern Front. No mercy, no exceptions. Klaus couldn't walk yet. His wound was healing, but he was still too weak to stand for more than a few minutes. He would be left behind. "They're going to kill me," Klaus said to Marta on August 26th. It wasn't a question. Marta didn't lie to him. "Yes, probably." "I don't want to die here," Klaus said. "Not like this. Not executed in a hospital bed." "I'm sorry," Marta said, and she really meant it. Klaus grabbed her hand. His grip was weak but desperate. "Help me, please. You saved my life once. Save it again." "I can't." "You can," Klaus insisted. "You're Polish. You know this city. You have connections with the resistance, I know it. Get me out of here. Give me civilian clothes. I'll disappear. I'll never wear this uniform again. I'll find somewhere to hide until the war is over. If I'm caught helping you escape, I'll be executed," Marta said. "Either by the Germans before they leave, or by the Soviets when they arrive." "Either way, I'm dead." "Then let me die," Klaus said, releasing her hand. "I won't ask you to risk your life for me. I'm not worth it." Marta left Klaus's bedside and went to the supply room. She sat on a box of bandages and put her head in her hands. She should let him die. He was a German soldier. The enemy. His people had destroyed her city, killed her family, turned her life into a nightmare. Why should she risk everything to save him? But she remembered how he said thank you in his mother's Polish, the way he cried when talking about her, the way he called himself a coward for surviving. She thought about her own mother, standing in front of that Jewish child, knowing the Germans would kill her for it. Her mother had died doing the right thing, even though it was dangerous, even though it cost her everything. What would her mother do? Marta already knew the answer. That night, Marta worked late. She told the German guards she needed to inventory supplies before the evacuation. They didn't care. They were too busy preparing to leave themselves. She went to Klaus's bed at midnight. The hospital was dark, lit only by a few emergency lamps. Most of the staff had already fled. "Can you walk?" she whispered. Klaus's eyes widened. "You're helping me? Can you walk?" Marta repeated. "I think so." "With help." Marta had brought civilian clothes, a shirt and pants that had belonged to her older brother, kept in her locker for years because she couldn't bear to throw them away. She had also prepared fake documents. She had access to the hospital's typewriter and official stamps. The documents identified Klaus as Piotr Mazur, a factory worker from the Praga district. "Put them on," she shouted. "Quickly!" Klaus struggled to remove his hospital gown, groaning in pain, putting on the civilian clothes. They were too small, but they would work, and he knew he had no other choice anyway. Marta helped him stand. He leaned heavily on her, one arm trying to find support on Marta's shoulders. "There's a basement exit," she said. "It leads to an alley. 3 blocks from here I have a contact, a woman named Pani Novak. She helps people hide. She'll take you in until you're strong enough to leave Warsaw. Marta, don't talk, save your strength. We need to move." They reached the basement stairs. Klaus was sweating, his face pale from effort and pain. Every step was torture for him, but he kept going. When they were in the basement, they heard voices upstairs. German soldiers doing final sweeps. "Faster," Marta hissed. They reached the exit. Marta pushed the door open and cold night air rushed in. The alley was dark, empty, perfect. "Go left, then turn right at the end," Marta said. 3 blocks. Number 47. Knock 3 times, pause twice more. Pani Novak will answer. Klaus turned to her. In the darkness, his face was just a shadow. "Why are you doing this?" "Because someone still has to be human," Marta said. "Now go, before I change my mind." Klaus took a step, then turned back. He pulled something from his pocket, a small wildflower, wilted but still recognizable. He had been keeping it since before he was shot, a childhood habit his mother had taught him. Klaus was making a gesture of his own. "Take this," he pressed it into her hand. "So you remember that good things still exist. Thank you, Marta. I'll never forget what you did." After giving her the flower, he continued limping into the darkness. Marta stood there for a moment, holding the flower. Then she went back inside, locked the door, and went to her room. She couldn't sleep that night. The Soviets came on August 28th. By then, the hospital was nearly empty, just a handful of staff and a few regular patients too sick to move. The Soviet soldiers swept through efficiently and coldly. They executed the remaining wounded German soldiers without ceremony. Marta was questioned. Where was the German medical staff? Where were the records? Did everyone escape? She lied smoothly. She hadn't lied before this. "I don't know, I'm just a nurse. They left me behind too." The Soviets seemed to accept this. They had bigger concerns than one missing German soldier. Warsaw was liberated, but no one could experience freedom. It was almost as if there had been no liberation. The Germans were gone, yes, but the Soviets brought their own brand of oppression. The NKVD, Soviet secret police, set up headquarters throughout the city, hunting Nazi collaborators, resistance members, anyone who might oppose Soviet control. Marta tried to return to normal life, or whatever normal life meant. She found work at a civilian hospital treating Polish survivors. She tried not to think about Klaus, about whether he had reached Pani Novak's house, about whether he had survived. She kept the wildflower he had given her, pressed in a book. On February 3rd, 1945, Marta was arrested by the NKVD. They came to her apartment at dawn, 3 soldiers with rifles and a female officer with cold eyes. "Marta Kowalska," the woman said in Russian. "Yes." "You're under arrest for collaboration with Nazi forces." Marta's blood froze. "I was conscripted. I had no choice," she said. "Everyone has a choice," the woman said. "Come with us." They took her to a building that used to be a school, now converted into an NKVD interrogation center. They put her in a cell, on bare concrete, a bucket in the corner, no windows. They left her there for 3 days with no food, only water. On the 4th day, they came for her. They took Marta to a room on the 2nd floor. It had an ice-cold corridor, or maybe Marta just felt cold. It was small. Some plaster had fallen from the walls, paint was peeling, and there was a single table with 2 chairs. A single light bulb hung from the ceiling, swinging. A man sat behind the table. He wore an NKVD uniform, dark green with red trim. His face was in shadow. "Sit," he said in Russian. Marta sat, her hands trembling. She had heard stories about NKVD interrogations. People went in and didn't come out, or they came out broken, forced to confess to crimes they didn't commit. The man leaned forward into the light. This person was Klaus. Marta felt like she had been punched in the chest, like a defenseless girl who had never felt this bad in her life. She couldn't breathe. This wasn't possible. It couldn't be Klaus. Klaus was a German soldier. Klaus was supposed to be hiding or dead or anywhere but here in a Soviet uniform. But it was Klaus. The same grey eyes, the same face but harder now, thinner. The same voice but speaking Russian instead of Polish. "Hello, Marta," Klaus said. "I believe you have some questions to answer." Marta couldn't speak. Her mind was racing, trying to understand. How was Klaus here? Why was he wearing that uniform? What had happened? Klaus opened the file on the table. Marta Kowalska, 24 years old, nurse, worked in a German military hospital from April 1943 to August 1944, responsible for treating wounded Wehrmacht soldiers. He looked at her. "A collaborator." "I was conscripted," Marta said. "I had no choice." "Everyone has a choice," Klaus said, repeating what the female officer had told her. "You chose to save German lives, enemy lives." "I'm a nurse," Marta said, finding her voice. "I save lives, that's what I do." "Noble," Klaus said. His tone was flat, unreadable. "Tell me, did you help any German soldiers escape before the Soviets came?" There it was, the real question. Marta looked at Klaus, at this stranger wearing Klaus's face, and made a decision. She wouldn't lie, she wouldn't beg. If he was going to betray her, let him do it while looking into her eyes. "Yes," she said. "I helped one. A wounded soldier who was going to be executed. I gave him civilian clothes and documents. I showed him how to escape." Klaus wrote something in the file. His hand was steady. "Why?" "Because it was the right thing to do." "The right thing," Klaus repeated. "You helped a Nazi escape justice. You call that right?" "I helped a human being survive," Marta said. "That's what I call right." Klaus was silent for a long time. Then he closed the file. "That soldier you helped," he said softly, still in Russian. "What was his name?" Marta looked into his eyes. "Klaus Weber." Klaus stood up and walked to the small window. He stood there for a moment, his back to Marta, looking out at the ruined city. "I made it to Pani Novak's house," he said, still speaking Russian, as if Polish was a language he had forgotten. "She hid me for 2 weeks, fed me, took care of me until I recovered. She was a good woman, a brave woman." Marta waited, her heart pounding as if it would burst from her chest. "Then the Soviets came," Klaus continued. "They were rounding up German soldiers, collaborators, anyone suspicious. Pani Novak told me I had 2 options, run and probably get caught and shot, or surrender and cooperate." He turned to face her. "I chose to cooperate. I told them everything. Every German position I knew, every officer's name, every supply route. I gave them maps I drew from memory. I was useful." "So they hired you," Marta said, understanding now. "They gave me a choice," Klaus said. "Work for them or go to a labor camp in Siberia. I told you before, Marta, I'm a coward who chose to live." "You're wearing their uniform," Marta said. "You're interrogating your own people. This isn't just choosing to live, this is becoming one of them." Klaus's jaw tightened. "My own people? The Germans court-martialed my mother for being Polish. If they had known, they would have executed me for being mixed race. These aren't my people, no one is my people." "I was your people," Marta said quietly. "I risked my life for you." For the first time, something flickered across Klaus's face. Pain, maybe, or guilt. But it disappeared as quickly as it appeared. "Yes," he said. "You did. And now I'm risking mine for you." Klaus sat back down and opened the file again. "Here's what the NKVD knows. You worked in a German hospital. You had access to wounded soldiers, medical supplies, official documents. The hospital's records show discrepancies. Missing supplies, unaccounted medications, forged documents. He pulled out a paper. Marta recognized it. It was one of the fake identity documents she had made for Klaus. "We found these in her house when we arrested Pani Novak," Klaus said. Marta felt her stomach turn. "You arrested her? She helped you?" "She helped Germans escape," Klaus interrupted. "That's collaboration. She was executed 3 weeks ago." Marta closed her eyes. Pani Novak, dead. Because of her. Because she had sent Klaus there. "The evidence is clear," Klaus continued. "You're guilty of collaboration, aiding the enemy, document forgery. The penalty is execution or 25 years in a labor camp. Probably both." "Then why are you telling me this?" Marta asked. "Just shoot me and get it over with." "Because you saved my life," Klaus said, "and because I'm giving you the same choice they gave me. Cooperate or face the consequences." "Cooperate how?" Klaus pulled out another file thicker than hers. "Poland is full of people like you. Nurses, doctors, administrators who worked under German occupation. Some were forced, some volunteered. We need to determine which is which. You know these people. You worked with them. You can help us separate the real collaborators from the survivors." "You want me to inform on people," Marta said. "To give you names." "I want you to help us find Nazis," Klaus corrected. "The real ones, the ones who volunteered to harm your people. Isn't that what you want? Justice." "This isn't justice," Marta said. "This is revenge. This is making victims betray each other to survive." "This is survival," Klaus said. "Same as always. Either you choose to live or you choose to die. Simple." Marta looked at Klaus, at this man she had saved, who now held her life in his hands, and remembered something. "That night, I helped you escape," she said. "You gave me a flower, do you remember?" Klaus's expression didn't change. "No. You said it was so I would remember that good things still exist. You said you would never forget what I did." "I don't remember that." "You're lying." Klaus leaned forward. "Listen carefully, Marta. The Klaus Weber you helped no longer exists. He died in that alley. I'm someone else now. Someone who understands that sensitivity is weakness, that mercy gets you killed." "You're wrong," Marta said. "You're still him. You're just pretending you're not because it's easier than feeling guilty." "Guilty about what? Surviving? About betraying the person who saved you?" Klaus suddenly stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. He walked to the door and knocked twice. A guard opened it. "Take her back to her cell," Klaus said in Russian. "Give her food and water. Let her think about my offer." When the guard grabbed Marta's arm, she looked back at Klaus. "That flower is still in my apartment," she said, "pressed in a poetry book. It's been dead for months, but I kept it anyway. Because I believed you when you said good things still exist." Klaus turned away from her. "Take her," he told the guard. They brought Marta bread and watery soup. She forced herself to eat, knowing she needed strength for whatever came next, and began to eat. She sat in the darkness of her cell and thought about choices. Klaus had said everyone has a choice, but that wasn't true. Most choices during war weren't really choices at all. They were just different versions of surrender, work in the German hospital, or get shot. Save Klaus or let him die. Inform for the Soviets or face execution. Where was the choice in any of that? But then she thought about her mother, standing in front of that Jewish child, knowing the Germans would kill her for it. That had been a choice, a real choice. Her mother could have looked away, could have saved herself. She chose not to. What would her mother say now? Would she tell Marta to cooperate, to survive? Or would she tell her there are things worth dying for? Marta thought she knew the answer. The next morning, they brought her back to the same room. Klaus was already there, files spread across the table. "Have you made your decision?" he asked. "Yes," Marta said. "I won't inform. I won't give you names. Do what you want to me." Klaus looked at her for a long time. "You're willing to die for people you barely know? For people who might actually be guilty? I'm willing to die for people you call guilty or people I don't know," Marta said. Something flashed in Klaus's eyes. Maybe anger, maybe pain. "Do you think you're better than me? Do you think your principles make you noble?" "No," Marta said. "I think they make me human. Something you've forgotten how to be." Klaus slammed his hand on the table. "Do you want to know what being human gets you in this world? Death, that's what. Your mother was human. What did it get her? Your brother was human. Your father. They all died because they had principles. And they died as themselves, Marta shot back. Can you say the same? When you die, because eventually, Klaus, everyone dies, will you die as yourself, or as whatever the NKVD turned you into? Klaus stood up so fast his chair fell over. He grabbed the files and walked to the door. Then he stopped. You should know, he said without turning around. The evidence against you is overwhelming. I submitted my recommendation this morning. 25 years labor camp. You'll be transferred to Siberia next week. Thank you for not executing me, Marta said. She meant it sarcastically, but Klaus responded as if she was serious. I couldn't, he said quietly. Despite everything, I couldn't sign your death warrant. Maybe that makes me weak. Maybe it means he still exists. I don't know anymore. He opened the door. Goodbye, Marta. Marta spent 4 more days in the cell. She tried to prepare herself mentally for Siberia, for 25 years of frozen hell. She tried to make peace with her decision. On the 5th day, Klaus came to her cell personally. He was alone, no guards. Come with me, he said. Am I being transferred? Just come. He led her up through the building, but not toward the processing area where prisoners were taken before transport. Instead, he took her up the stairs to the 3rd floor to an office. Inside was a desk, papers, and a coat hanging on a hook. This was my offer to you, Klaus said, locking the door behind them. Cooperate, and you would get a position like this. A desk job to help us process cases. Comfortable, safe. I already said, I'm not here to change your mind, Klaus interrupted. He went to the desk and pulled out a folder. I'm here to show you something. He opened the folder. Inside were documents, German ones, stamped and official looking. Here are records from the hospital where you worked, Klaus said. I've been going through everything, trying to understand what happened during those months. He pulled out a specific page. This is a death certificate. German soldier died August 20th, 1944. Infected wound, sepsis. Signed by Dr. Kowalczyk. So what? The wound wasn't infected, Klaus said. The medical notes show he was improving. But then he suddenly died. And here, he pulled out another page. Another soldier, August 22nd. Unexpected complications, dead. And another, August 23rd. He looked at Marta. You were killing them. Marta's throat went dry. Not all of them, Klaus continued. Just the ones who were going to survive. The ones who would go back to fighting. You nursed them back to health, then when they were stable, you'd give them something. An overdose maybe, or the wrong medication. I don't know exactly, but you were killing them. I don't know what you're talking about, Marta said, but her voice trembled. Yes, you do. You saved the ones like me, the wounded who couldn't fight anymore. But the ones who would heal and return to killing your people? You killed them first. Klaus closed the folder. You were in the resistance. Not official, not organized, but resistance nonetheless. Marta stood there frozen. She had been so careful. She had thought no one noticed. She had thought the chaos of those final days had hidden her actions. Why are you telling me this? She finally asked. Because if I submit this evidence, you won't go to a labor camp, Klaus said. You'll be executed immediately. Killing German soldiers, even wounded ones, is a capital crime. Then submit it, Marta said. I won't beg you. Klaus put the folder in her hands. These are the only copies. The originals were destroyed when the hospital was bombed. Without these, there's no evidence. Your sentence stays at 25 years. Marta stared at the folder, then at Klaus. I don't understand. There's a fireplace downstairs, Klaus said. In the commandant's office. It's always burning. If these documents were to accidentally fall into it, they'd be gone forever. Why would you do this? Klaus walked to the window, looking out at the gray Warsaw sky. You asked if I remembered the flower. I lied. I remember everything about that night. I remember how your hands trembled when you gave me those documents. I remember you smelled like disinfectant and fear. I remember thinking that if I survived, it would be because of a person who chose kindness when they could have chosen hate. He turned to face her. I've done terrible things since then. I've interrogated people, sent them to camps, made them informants. I told myself I was surviving, that it didn't matter, that Klaus Weber was dead. But then you came and chose principles over survival, and I realized he's not completely dead, just buried. I can't bring him back, Marta said softly. I know, but maybe you can take those papers and burn them. Maybe that's enough. Klaus took Marta downstairs. They walked through empty corridors. He had arranged for this area to be cleared. When they reached the commandant's office, Klaus opened the door. The room was empty, the fireplace burning. "Go ahead," Klaus said. Marta walked to the fireplace. She looked at the folder in her hands. This file held the evidence of what she had done. "I'm not sorry," she said, "for killing them. They would have killed more of my people. I know, but I am sorry for what I did to you." Klaus looked confused. "What did you do to me?" "I saved you," Marta said. "I thought I was being merciful, but maybe I was being cruel. Maybe letting you die as Klaus Weber would have been kinder than living as whatever you are now." Klaus was silent for a long time. "Maybe," he finally said, "but I'm alive, and sometimes that has to be enough." Marta threw the folder into the fire. They watched the papers curl and blacken, the evidence turning to ash and smoke. "What happens now?" Marta asked. "Now you go to Siberia," Klaus said. 25 years. I couldn't stop that without raising suspicion. But you'll live. That's something. And you? I'll continue to do my duty. Interrogating, processing, surviving." Klaus pulled something from his pocket. "But I'll keep this." It was a pressed flower. Wilted, brown, barely recognizable, but still a flower. "You said it was in a poetry book," Klaus said. "When they searched your apartment, I made sure I was there. I took it before anyone else could find it." Marta felt tears on her face. "Why?" "Because you told me good things still exist, and maybe if I keep this, I can remember you were right, even if I can't be a good thing myself anymore." 2 days later, Marta was loaded onto a train with 40 other prisoners. The journey to Siberia would take weeks. Most wouldn't survive. As the train pulled away from Warsaw, Marta looked out through the bars on the window. She saw the ruins of her city, the broken buildings, the people trying to build lives from rubble. She thought about Klaus, about how war had taken a scared young man and turned him into something cold. She wondered if he would keep that flower, or if eventually he would throw it away too. She thought about her mother, about dying for what's right, about her older brother who wanted to be a teacher, about her father's bookshop full of stories about heroes, villains, and the complicated people in between. The train carried her east, toward frozen hell, toward 25 years of suffering. But she was alive, and she had kept some part of herself intact, a core that war couldn't destroy. That had to mean something. Marta served 11 years before Stalin's death brought reforms and early releases for some prisoners. She returned to Poland in 1956, 40 years old, her health broken but her mind intact. She tried to find out what happened to Klaus. The NKVD records were murky, but she heard rumors. He had been transferred to East Germany in 1947. Someone said he had defected to the West in 1950. Someone else said he had been executed. As a double agent in 1952, she never knew for certain. She found work in a library in Krakow. She never married. She spent her evenings reading poetry and thinking about choices, the ones we make, the ones made for us, and the thin line between the two. Sometimes, on August 18th, the anniversary of the day Klaus came to the hospital, she would buy a wildflower from the market. She would press it in a book and keep it for a year. Then she would throw it away and buy a new one. A reminder that good things exist, even in the darkest times. Even when the people we save become the people we fear. Even when mercy looks like cruelty, and cruelty looks like survival, even then, especially then. You need to understand something about war. It doesn't just kill people, it transforms them. It takes someone good and makes them cruel. It takes someone brave and makes them cowardly. It takes someone who stands by their word and makes them a terrible ingrate. It takes someone who would die for principles and makes them betray everything they believe in just to see one more sunrise. Klaus and Marta's story isn't about heroes or villains. It's about two people trying to survive in a world designed to destroy them. Marta saved his life, and in return he couldn't quite bring himself to end hers completely. Maybe that's not much. Maybe it's pathetic compared to the grand gestures of wartime romances, but it's real. And real is harder than heroism. If you've ever made a choice between survival and principle, you know what I'm talking about. If you've ever betrayed someone who loved you when staying loyal meant death, you understand. If you've ever looked in the mirror and wondered what you've become, you understand. War turns everyone into monsters. The question isn't whether you'll become one. The question is whether you'll remember afterward what it felt like to be human. Klaus kept that flower. Marta kept buying new ones. Maybe that was enough. I hope that in this small life we live, we don't encounter such an ingrate. Someone cruel enough to betray the person who saved their life just to survive. Cruel enough to betray their honor just to live. In the content we'll create from now on, we've focused on giving more importance to betrayals, ingratitudes, secret loves, drama, to make you say, what lives have been lived in this emotional spiral. I hope we have been worthy of your time and of adding value to you. I love you all very much. Stay with love. Goodbye.